Paint Care is all about keeping it simple for Oregonians. They make recycling leftover paint, stain, and varnish easy with convenient locations like your local paint store. Paint Care has 3 simple rules for painting smarter and reducing waste. 1, buy the right amount of paint for the job. 2, use up what's left. And 3, recycle the rest. Learn more or find a paint drop-off site near you at paintcare.org/3simplerules.
Hey everyone, it's me, Drew Offwallow, host of the Comment Section Show. Come join me and one of my iconic special guests every week on the show as we dive into the dreaded comment sections of our tagged videos and take down the most terrible men on the internet, period. Somehow, they won't go away no matter what I do, no matter how incredibly awful and mean I am to them, but I don't mind doing this work. In fact, if I'm being honest, I think it's God's work. So make sure y'all follow me on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes every Wednesday.
Today on CityCast Portland, we're continuing our Neighborhood Guide series where we talk with Portlanders about the good, the bad, and the ugly of where they live. This time, we're talking about Northeast Portland's complex and historic Eliot neighborhood with Brooke Jackson Glidden. She's the editor-in-chief of Portland Monthly and previous editor of Eater Portland. She's going to tell us why the Eliot neighborhood is the perfect microcosm of all of Portland. It's Thursday, August 8th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Before we get into it, what are the boundaries of the Eliot neighborhood, and why does Eliot only have one L? What happened to the other L, Brooke?
I am not responsible for the other L in Eliot. Okay? That's... I can't be the L's keeper in this scenario. Okay?
I heard that you were Brooke Jackson Glidden at one point.
Wow. So the boundaries, Claudia. Let's get focused.
Okay, go on.
Okay, so it's between 7th and the river, basically on the east side of Portland. The river being the Willamette River, in case, I don't know, you somehow landed here and don't know what
Which
river we're talking about. You know, in terms of like the north and south boundary, it kind of follows Fremont and Broadway by the bridges, like as if you're going to the bridges, right? So, you know, it's not totally straight across. It kind of follows the curvature, like if you were to draw a line over the map, as the Fremont Bridge sort of launches itself across the river.
Listener, you cannot see her, but she is pantomiming you being launched. One thing I did look into, because this was the first time I actually realized that Eliot is spelled with one L. And I found out that that neighborhood was named after Reverend Thomas L. Eliot, a white pioneer minister from St. Louis, Missouri.
I'll be honest, I had no idea.
Why would you? Like, why would anyone?
Yeah, I feel like, and it's like such a kind of classic Portland thing to name a neighborhood after a white guy no one remembers.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Especially since the Eliot neighborhood has a very different history.
Yeah, 100%. As is true of a lot of the neighborhoods that are a part of the sort of lower Albina area. This is a neighborhood that has like a really, really storied Black Portlander history. And that specific community was absolutely targeted for displacement, particularly through the 20th century. You know, things like the Portland Public Schools headquarters development down by the river, the development of the Legacy Manual Hospital. You know, this displaced a ton of Black Portlanders from what we call the Eliot neighborhood now. But, you know, despite truly a really significant and serious effort to push Black people out of this neighborhood, there's been a lot of reinvestment and sort of like community strengthening among the Black neighbors in my neighborhood, particularly through projects like Albina Vision Trust, which has like specifically focused on redeveloping that area, prioritizing like housing and these broader community spaces.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Well, now that people kind of are situated where Eliot is, give me your best Eliot pitch. Like, what do you love about living there?
Yeah, you know, I think that Eliot is this tiny microcosm of residential areas and like this industrial low-key kind of scene. It's like a really culturally rich neighborhood. There are a lot of different types of people who live there. The way I like to talk about this is that, Billy Ray's, which is like a very classic dive, and Ox, which is this very fancy Latin American steakhouse, they're across the street from each other. So, it's like you have a lot of that context there. You have these Ethiopian markets, you have really cool record shops. There's a ton that goes on there, even despite like these big major thoroughfares that I think people sort of like write off the neighborhood for. So, MLK running right through there and Broadway. But, there are so many like hidden gem cool spots among kind of the like industrial elements of it. Mm-hmm. And you have like a lot of cool community investment projects there. So you have places like Open Signal, which is a sort of broader media art center, trying to prioritize people who are not typically on the airwaves, getting sort of access and space within those, sort of mediums. And there are places like Bike Farm, which prioritizes teaching people how to take care of their own bikes, getting like cheap bikes in the hands of people who are in need of some form of transportation. Mm-hmm. You have like places like Matt Dishman, which is like this sort of like low barrier of entry gym, community center. It has a great pool. I don't know. It's just like this very rich and connected neighborhood. And you have all of these like really cool community events in Dawson Park. Particularly, you have like Juneteenth events, and you have these events that are specifically centering the Black community within Eliot. I just feel like there are people that are really investing in protecting this space and challenging the various forces that have tried to harm it, I would say.
Two things. One, I taught at Open Signal many, many years ago. I was teaching people how to edit using Premiere and, basic video projects. And I still get notes from my students who like progressed and are working in film and television. And they're just like, it was your class that got me here. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's so sweet. Do you know what I mean? And like the class would be like 15-year-olds and like a 7-year-old. And all from the neighborhood
100%.
That just want to learn how to make a movie or how to record something or whatever. It was one of the best experiences of my life. Two, I saw Janelle Monáe at Dawson Park and it was awesome.
Oh my gosh, you did?
I did. She came. She was going the Tell 'Em About It tour where she would play this amazing song and then she would recite, every Black American woman had been shot and killed by the police. And it was like it's such a phenomenal, beautiful song.
Janelle Monáe is like one of my favorite people on the planet. I saw them last year and it was like one of the best concerts of my life.
The aura on her, like she glows. Like I was like, oh, am I going to be able to see her? And it was like Janelle Monáe. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
I'm like, oh, there she is. Okay. Classic Brooke Claudia mess around. Absolutely nothing to do with what we were talking about. So we talked a bit about the positives and Janelle Monáe. What are a few of your personal Eliot gripes?
Yeah, I think that like my biggest gripe primarily is like a cyclist and pedestrian. I think that MLK is a little bit of like a nightmare just in terms of being so car-centric that it can be really hard to cross, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you're doing that with your feet or on a bike, I think it could be easier for people within the neighborhood to move within that area.
Yeah, I have to agree with you that one of the biggest bummers about going to that area is that you're just like, it's on MLK, like where? Oh, Yeah. Because there's like 2 streets and then like a median.
Right.
And it's just a lot. And then like no one stops for you.
No.
Even though there are walkways, but nobody stops for you,
100%. Yeah, I would love to see like more protected crossings for neighbors and for people who are walking around there.
Totally. All right. Well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, some of Brooke's Eliot neighborhood recommendations.
Hey, it's John from CityCast Portland. Let's face it, sometimes bad stuff happens. A serious injury, a catastrophic accident, even a wrongful death. It can really turn your world upside down. And when it does, you deserve unwavering support from a dedicated team. Yeah, you need a lawyer. D'Amour Law Group has over 30 years of experience protecting the rights of Oregonians. Their team of skilled attorneys, led by the renowned trial lawyer Tom D'Amour, will work tirelessly to make sure your voice is heard and your rights are protected. Here's what one of his clients said. Tom fights for his clients from the first day they meet him through the last day of trial. So if you need help holding those responsible for your injuries accountable, contact Diamore Law Group at 503-222-6333 or visit damorelaw.com to schedule a free consultation. They're committed to fighting for the justice and compensation you deserve right here in Portland.
The land down under has never been easier to reach. United Airlines has more flights between the U.S. and Australia than any other U.S. airline, so you can fly nonstop to destinations like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Explore dazzling cities, savor the very best of Aussie cuisine, and get up close and personal with the wildlife. Who doesn't want to hold a koala? Go to united.com/Australia to book your adventure.
Well, let's talk about where you would take someone that was new to the area. Like they're visiting you and you want to show off your neighborhood. Where are some places you're going to take them? What's the day?
Totally. Okay. So to do like a full day, you got to start at Bernstein Bagels. Love Bernstein's, like one of my all-time favorite bagels in Portland. It opened in St. John's originally, but it's now in my neighborhood. And if you're me, you're getting an everything bagel with holy chiver schmear. And a shake of za'atar. And then probably if I'm down there, I'm also getting a coffee at Calesa, which is like the Filipino coffee shop and roaster that's like within the Gotham building down there. So breakfast of champions.
Ooh.
There's this really cool, bizarre gallery in that area called Hide and Seek. Matt Truhertz, an editor at Portland Monthly, just wrote about it. But it's a residential gallery. So it's just literally where the curator lives. It's like his house, his apartment. Mm-hmm. And he opens it up on Fridays and then like for appointments and has like a straight up gallery space there. So you can like just go chill with this guy in his house and look at the art in his house. But it's genuinely really great art, like a really cool gallery space. So really, really love that spot. From there, I would have us wander around, walk up to some of the shops that are closer to MLK. I really love this. It's like a combination record shop, kind of bookstore, sort of clothing resale.
You're talking about Musique Plastique?
I am totally talking about Musique Plastique. Yeah. Love this spot. I remember when I first moved here, my partner and I, we had like a date and we went in there. And there was a copy of Fiona Apple's Extraordinary Machine, an original pressing that was like behind the counter. It's like, it was a pretty rare record. And I was like, oh my God, I've always wanted that record. It's always so expensive. I don't buy it. And he went back and he bought it for my birthday. So special place in my heart for that spot. Aww. Lunch would probably be at Portland Cafe. It's a Vietnamese coffee shop on MLK. But the owner's mother owns House of Banh Mi.
Oh my God, really?
Yes.
I love House of Banh Mi.
Me too. And they supply the banh mi at Portland Cafe. So you can go, you can get like a fun little café soda, like the Vietnamese iced coffee, and a really good banh mi.
Dude, this is a hack. House of Banh Mi is like a bit, it's further away if you're from the northeast area. It's kind of a drive. So, wow. Okay, go on, go on.
Super, super worthy. I mean, like, that is a very classic lunch. And, you know, we can take those banh mi over to Dawson Park and eat there, or just, you know, eat in the coffee shop to stay closer to places like Black Water Records. But there's also, I'm thinking like a beer at the Waypost or Billy Ray's. And then dinner, I think, depending on how you want to go, I would either go to Queen of Sheba, which is like the grande dame of Ethiopian food in Portland, like one of the first Ethiopian restaurants that still operates in Portland.
And still very delicious, yeah.
Still super delicious, still there. Or we could go to Ox, which is like the James Beard Award-winning, aforementioned Latin American steakhouse. This just sort of depends on the vibe of the day.
I will say, Queen of Sheba and Ox, I've had more misses at Ox than I've had at Queen of Sheba.
Listen.
Because, you know, here's the thing about Ox. Of course, you know, they're a good restaurant. But when they miss, it's so disappointing because you just spent so much money.
100%.
Okay, sorry, Brooke.
No, totally. And I will say, like, yeah, Queen of Sheba, super consistent. Like, if you are someone who likes Ethiopian food, it rules. It's super dialed in. They've been doing it forever. They know what they're doing. So super fun. Love that spot. I would end the day with a show at the Wonder Ballroom. I saw Kamasi Washington there, I think, once. But you'll also get like really cool, fun local acts right as they're coming up. Like, I think it's a really cool venue. I think they have a really good balance.
Okay, so we went through your perfect, like, someone visiting you, friend or family day. What about, like, where are you hanging out? Like, where are the locals hanging out every day? I heard Portland Cafe. I know you eat there often, but, like, what are some other places?
Totally. So I think, again, this is a neighborhood that has a lot of different types of people who live here. And so there are, like, a million different answers. If you're on the 7th side, so the farther east side of Eliot, you're probably going to 26 Cafe, which is like the neighborhood coffee shop. It's like a few steps from Irving Park. Then we're sort of into Irvington, right? That's like kind of a very different vibe. But this is like on the border, and it is popping every morning. They have this beautiful back patio, and it's a really nice place to like work for the day if you want to like camp out some spot. It's a really good spot to do that. Right next door is the Pocket Pub, which I think you might think means it's like a pub. It's really more of like an Italian restaurant.
Cute.
But it's like right next door. And it's like completely populated by locals. I don't think you'll see anyone who isn't from the neighborhood at those spots. Like very, very into it. I would say if you're on the other side, though, I think like truly, if you haven't been to Billy Ray's, if you're somebody who like likes dive bars, this is like classic Portland dive bar. I do think it's like absolutely a local hangout. And like not a thing you can eat there that like you want to eat. Like it's very much a place to drink a beer, but it's like super fun. It's been there forever. I would say that like very much feels like a local hangout for sure.
Yeah, I feel like that is many people's first bars that they go to in Portland. I don't know if you moved here in the early aughts or whatever, like that was one of the first places somebody who already lived here took you to, was Billy Ray's.
Totally. Yeah. When I first started at Eater, my predecessor, Matty John, it was like his first recommendation for me was that bar.
That's so cool.
I think I heard the same thing from like Michael Russell.
Yeah. Well, cool. Is that it?
That's kind of what I got for you. I feel like, are we just talking about food and drink spots? You know what I mean? Because I would say like Dishman, you know, I would say like these community spaces are spots where you're going to see locals hanging out. I think you see a lot of locals hanging out in Dawson Park. Dawson Park has a ton of events year round, barbecues and cookouts that happen there. There was like a Willamette Week story, I want to say like a year or two ago, that was talking about how Dawson Park is so dangerous, blah, blah, blah. And I think that like a lot of the people who lived here are like, okay, well, this is our park. Yeah.
I saw Janelle Monáe. Janelle Monáe went to Dawson Park. That's all I'm going to say. Like I saw Janelle Monáe for free at Dawson Park. It was awesome.
I love that. I'm so jealous. I remember I went to the Gap once with an ex. And
I love this story already. This sounds like
immediately
like a Chapel Roan song. Go on.
Yeah, you need the like super graphic ultramodern girl in the background. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, so you went to
I went to the Gap with my ex.
Yeah, okay, go on.
I went to the Gap with my ex, and there's like a giant poster of Janelle Monáe in the back, and he's like, "Oh, I know them," and I'm like, "You know Janelle Monáe?" And he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "How?" And it was very much like he was shooting a protest, and Janelle like threw a sort of impromptu concert afterward for the people who were there, and he met her that way. So totally wild, serendipitous thing.
Wow. I just love that this is the first neighborhood guide where it's also dedicated to a random non-Portland artist.
We love you, Janelle.
We love you, Janelle.
That's all right.
You know what? If Janelle wanted to take the other L in Eliot, she could.
Yeah. Janelle Monáe.
Janelle Monáe. Well, thank you so much, Brooke, for giving me a little guide of your neighborhood. I say this every time, but I mean it. Every time we do these guides, I thought I knew Eliot. Did not know Eliot. Like you walked me through so many places that I was like, oh, that's still Eliot? That's crazy. Yeah. Eliot has so many vibes and so many moods.
Yeah, I think that's really, truly, I said it before, but like that's one of my favorite things about my neighborhood is that like you encounter such a broad spectrum of what Portland is within this sort of small little chunk. And I think that the way that the people who live here invest in that and like want to build those community bonds, I think that rules.
For sure. Well, thank you, Brooke.
Thank you. Happy to be here as always.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend, rate or leave us a review. It really does help us out. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.